पदम त्रयीतत् समर्पितं ये जत प्राणिनां शत ये तत् जानत सद्गुरु जय जय सद्गुरु सद्गुरु जय जय सद्गुरु जय जय सद्गुरु जय जय सद्गुरु सद्गुरु जय जय सद्गुरु जय जय ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः उकारस्त्वन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्तन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयामदेवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवापुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ। So until now we finished how many sections? 3 sections of the Mundakopanishad. So we just finished Dvitiya Mundaka, Pratama Khandam we finished. Now we will move on to Dvitiya Mundake, Dvitiya Khandam. So until now the Upanishad was predominantly revealing Brahman as Sat Brahman. Our understanding of Brahman in the form of the very existence principle. The very existence principle which through Nama Rupa appears as this entire world is the revelation that the Upanishadic teaching had given us so far. And it concluded saying that that very existence is at an individual level, Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam, at an individual level is expressed as the very awareness principle or the consciousness principle in the form of the notion of I. And it is given the name called Chit. And the conclusion was that this Sat is Chit, this Chit is Sat. Okay. Now in this particular section, that is 2.2, Dvitiya Mundake, Dvitiya Kanda. Now Upanishad is now going to focus more on the Chit aspect of it. Chit aspect, na individual aspect. How this consciousness principle, which is available at the individual center, as though limited to the body, as though limited to the mind, and engages this body as a pure individual having all sorts of sorrows. Okay? Now, when the Upanishad says that you are Brahman, the statement does not make any relevance to one who has not properly digested the meaning of the word you. When the Upanishad points and says you, the Upanishad expects that you have understood the meaning of the word you in essence of it. In other words, for the person who is understanding, when I say I, what is the meaning that I bring about in my mind when I say I? Upanishad, not in this Upanishad, other Upanishad gives lot of prakriyas to make somebody understand that when the word I is being used, the I is being used in the form of that I which is Ekaha, Nityaha, Sarvagataha and Satyaha. What is that I? Nothing. So that I cannot mean the body, that I cannot mean the mind, that I cannot mean the intellect, that I cannot mean anything else but the consciousness principle. Therefore, when I use the word I must attribute the meaning of consciousness to that meaning. Only then, when the Upanishad spells the Mahavakyam out, you are Brahman, when the you are Brahman statement Mahavakyam is being made, that Vakyam or that particular equation will make relevance to the listening Shishya. Otherwise, it is a statement only to make you feel that they are talking about some impossibility. How can I be Brahman? When you must understand the implication. When the Upanishad says you are Brahman, it means that you Brahman in the sense of being the very reason, the very karanam for this entire Srishti. Can you even imagine that? Can you even imagine that with the notion of the I that one currently has, which is along with the body-mind complex as its meaning? It is not possible. Me being the Srishti Karanam, how is it ever possible? If that is the immediate throwing up happens in the mind, that means that the meaning of the word I has not been properly understood. How do I understand the meaning of this word I? That is dealt with as in the topic. In essence, I, Chit, consciousness is Do you have that card in your hand? Thank you. So when the Mahavakyam is being said, after our understanding of Brahman as the Jagat Karanam, the very essence of all that you see and experience, and after having understood that, when Shastra come and tell you that you are that Brahman, this you, in my perspective, the meaning of the word I needs to be understood as I am the consciousness who is not part or property or product of the body. I am the consciousness, an independent entity or an independent principle which pervades the body and makes the body sentient and alive. I am the consciousness and I am never limited by the boundaries of the body. In fact, I am not limited at all by anything. I am the consciousness. I survive the death of the body. Even after the body, I, the consciousness, continue to exist. The surviving consciousness, I am not recognized in the absence of a medium. So, in the medium that is called body, mind and senses, whatever is being recognized as a limited entity, that very limited entity, the sentiency, is the unlimited existence principle Sat, and that is given the name Chit. If this is the understanding, then Mahavakyam will make relevance. In this section, there are a umpteen number of mantras that all point at this unity of Sat, Chit or Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikya Bodhakam. Section full of Aikya Bodhakam. Now, in this section also focuses on one other important thing. Now, this mental, now the next question, natural question one may ask is, okay, I am ready to claim the real meaning of I in the form of being the consciousness principle. Excuse me. In the form of consciousness principle, which does not include the body-mind complex. I am ready to do it, but in order to do it, how is that I should equip myself? So, the mind, the intellect, they need certain amount of disposition in order to negate what you already were thinking to be yourself. Therefore, Upanishad gives an good imagery of an archery imagery. Dhanur grihitva Upanishadam mahastram sharam hi upasan nishitam sandayita ayamya tad bhavagathena chetasa lakshyam tadevaksharam somya viddhi. Here the imagery, or very in short called Dhanur Kalpana, imagery of an archery imagery. It talks about the arrow becoming one with its destiny or the target. In an imagery, in an archery, what is the aim? The arrow and the target should become one. Okay? What makes the arrow travel to the target? The bow. So, the arrow with the use of bow becomes one with the target. And this arrow should be straight. It cannot be crooked. The arrow should be sharp. And the arrow should be properly directed. That is, the aim should be perfect. It should be in the right direction. With this imagery, the Upanishad is getting a bit poetic here. Therefore, it gives a lot of imagery and makes one understand that he needs to focus on his mind, body and intellect so that he becomes capable of understanding that he is not limited to the body-mind complex. Okay. What is the imagery here? The arrow is equated to the Jivatma. Target, very easy to guess. What is the target? Paramatma. The bow which makes the target, the Jivatma reach the target Paramatma is Shastra Pramanam. Guru Vakyam, Shastra Pramanam, or here it is Pranavo Dhanuhu Sharo Hyatma Brahma Tallakshya Muchyate Apramattena Vedavyam Sharavat Tanmayo Bhavete. Omkara. So the Omkara is something that will lead you to the target Paramatma. Okay. Right. And the arrow should be straight. Indicates that one should have Arjavam. Arjavam is what? Integrity of thought, speech and action. Ullondru வைத்து புறமொன்று பேசுவார் உறவு களவாமை வேண்டும் is a very famous quote of who? Vallalar Mahan. He says that may I not be in the association, Bhagavan, may I not be in the association of persons who have something inside and speak something else outside. What it implies? May I be, it's a prayer, where I be, where may I speak only what I think and may I do only what I spoke. Arjavam. Sharpness of the arrow is compared to what? Sharpness of the arrow is compared to sharp intellect. Sharp intellect, focus of the mind while attending the class. Then the arrow should be properly directed, aimed at, indicates mumukshutvam, being always one pointed at the goal. Now, very important thing to understand again here is that in the imagery, arrow physically will go and reach the target. But in Jiva Brahma Aikyam, there is no physical movement and all. It is a notional distance that needs to be removed by proper understanding. If I forget, I will suddenly feel that I don't have the specs with me. It is a notional difference, it is not a physical difference. Moment I get the knowledge, or if one of you indicate, my notion of being separated from the spectacles is lost, and I understand that me and spectacles are together, were together, will be together. It's one single unit. Similarly, here it is only the removal of the notional difference in the form of ignorance between Jivatma and Paramatma, and there is no physical movement. With that, we will move to the Tritiya Mundaka Pratama Kandaha. This Tritiya Mundaka Pratama Kandaha basically focuses on, predominantly focuses on the sadhanas. The sadhanas one has to gain. Okay? The lack of sadhana chatushtayam, or the need for personal mental conduciveness, the need for mental conduciveness is more felt, is required, or is more made to feel, especially while talking about Mahavakya Vicharam. When Jivatma is referred to as the consciousness, it is still okay and we can grasp it. When Paramatma is referred to as Jagat Karanam, we have no problem in taking it, we will take it. But when the Shastra says that you are that, you aham brahmasmi, tat tvamasi, when Mahavakyas are being used to indicate the unity between Brahman and Jiva, they will be merely spoken words, or even if they are understood, claiming that aham brahmasmi, jagat karanam brahma, ahamasmi, mayeva sakalam jatam, all that is here is come out of me. This kind of claiming is not happening in one's mind, basically because his mind keeps slipping to his identity of body-mind complex. So the ability to disassociate from the body-mind complex and ability to stay put on the essence of the word I as the consciousness self, which in essence is the essence of Brahman, is where sadhana chatushtayam plays a very key role. That's where a mind's mental disposition becomes very, very important. Hence, even at the Upanishad literature level, it doesn't stop in spelling out the various sadhanas one needs to gain. In this section, first it talks about a technical qualification. As I just mentioned, when I say I, the meaning of the word I needs to enhance to the level of consciousness. Okay. Now, what are all the various, how can we categorize this entire thing? There is this consciousness which is all pervading. Okay. And there is this medium which is called body and mind. And through the body and mind, there is a notion of self that is emanating. What is required for Mahavakyam? From my existing notion of self that I understand through this body, mind and complex, within the same body, mind and mind complex, I should disassociate with that meaning and associate myself with the consciousness. Only then, when it is equated with Brahman, the limitlessness of the self can be claimed. Okay. Now, this consciousness, that is original consciousness, which is totally not limited everything. What is the limiting medium? The body-mind complex. Even if it is a wrong English, let me use the word limitator. Okay? The limitator. Because of the limitator, original conscious becomes as though limited, and the word I is being used to indicate ahankara, which is much limited compared to the original consciousness. I becomes father, I becomes mother, I becomes so and so, and that's the only thing that the I pervades, while I is all pervading. Therefore, while the medium is a limitator, which gives rise to a notion of limitation in the mind, much in the same mind needs to be trained that this limitation is not real, and that aham na ahankaraha, aham sakshi. Therefore, whenever the word I is being used, one should train his mind adequately to mean this I to be the Sakshi Chaitanyam available for transaction in the body, not the other way around. An Ajnani who has not trained the mind, when he says I, the I will predominantly take the meaning of Ahankara, and that Ahankara being powered by Sakshi. This understanding is easy to gain, but the technical qualification that one needs to gain is, whenever the word I is being used, spontaneously the I should mean Sakshi given to this transaction, that's all. This takes time. One needs to practice. After, it is not a practice or meditation closing your eyes. Every time the word being I is used, you should be with lot of awareness to find out whether you are, in what sense are you using it, what did you learn from Shastra and Guru as to what is the meaning of this I, then you replace slowly saying that no, I am Sakshi given to this transaction. You don't say that I am the transacting Ahankara and the Ahankara is because of Sakshi. No, that is a very, very initial stage. But when at the Mahavakyam stage, the qualification one needs to have is when he says I, spontaneously it should be Sakshi Pradana Artham. Okay. Now, this technical qualification that is required is being pointed out in the mantra 1 and 2. Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakhaya Samanam Vriksham Parishashvajate Tayoranyah Pippalam Swadayattu Ashna Anashnan Anyo Abhichakashihi Samane Vrikshe Purusho Nimagnaha Anishaya Shochati Muhyamanaha Jushtam Yada Pashyatyan Anyam Ishamasya Mahimanamiti Vita Shokaha. Right? Okay. So, the original consciousness, Sakshi, Chaitanyam that I am, that I should be able to always have an eye, always look at it. So, the imagery here is given us of two birds. A bird which is, we can say that it is an Ahankara bird which is always engaged in transaction and enjoying the fruits in the tree. There is another bird which is having no transaction but just sitting still. Right? So, instead of the bird being, so every time this bird which enjoys the fruits looks at the other bird which is transactionless. Okay? So, through these two mantras, the Upanishad requires us that despite being in transaction, have a constant understanding of I being the transactionless self. Okay. With that, the Upanishad goes ahead to give other sadhanas which are very, 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 very important for a spiritual seeker. Please, if you have a complacent nature to compromise on these values, you don't have a place for Vedanta or you don't have a place even for any Vedic studies. What are those? Satyam. Satyam. Not just this Upanishad, many Upanishad emphasize Satyam. Satyameva jayate nanratam. Satyena panta vitato devayanaha enakramanti rishayohi aptakamaha yatra tat satyasya paramam nidanam. Okay? So, Satyam generally very, in the previous session we used the word Satyam in a different meaning. Now we are using the word Satyam in a different meaning. The Shastric literature uses Satyam in both the meanings. When it comes to transaction, Satyam means speaking truth, not speaking untruth. That is the meaning of the word Satyam. In more so from a substance perspective, existence perspective, Satyam means that which exists without any dependent factors. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Therefore, one is the ethical aspect meaning of Satyam, the other is the Brahma Vidya truth aspect of Satyam. Okay? To differentiate which truth are you using, whenever you are using the Satyam in the sense of Brahman, you should use the word, you should use capital T. When it is a transactional truth, why don't you speak truth? That truth you use with a small t, just for convenience and understanding perspective. What is Satyam? Satyam is alignment of verbal and mental personality. Satyameva jayate. Kim jayate? What does it jayate? What does Satyam mean for you? Satyam eva moksham jayate. Satyam eva moksham jayate. It wins freedom for you. It wins liberation for you. Next one, the third one. Tapaha, First one is the technical qualification of aham being sakshi pradhanartham. Number 2, satyam. Number 3, tapaha, tapas. Tapas is development of a holistic personality for the purpose of moksha. Ensuring our personality is harmonious, and wherever required we take adequate care and steps to ensure that as a person holistically I grow in every aspect so that I become a recipient of this knowledge. That is tapaha. Next one is brahmacharyam. While brahmacharyam has many meanings, while brahmacharyams can take many meanings, even Shankara himself gives many meaning to brahmacharyam. Here in this context, in his Bhashyam, Shankara gives maintenance of the right attitude towards opposite sex. Maithuna asamacharanam. Okay? Well, fifth aspect is sukshma buddhi. Sukshma buddhi. What is sukshma buddhi? Yeshonuratma chetasa veditavyaha yasmin pranaha panchada samvivesha pranais chittam sarvam etam prajanam yasmin vishuddhe vibhavat yesha atma. So the Upanishad emphasizes the need of not just an intellect, but an intellect which is cultivated to receive very subtle things. As much as a particular object is very, very subtle or different, so much will be the difference or subtle the instrument that handles it. For example, you have a watch. You have an age-old watch. It's a mechanical watch that you have, and it needs to be repaired. You cannot use the screwdriver that you have at home. There is a separate toolbox, separate instrument that can handle. Similarly, this particular knowledge is about that which is one, that which is ever, and that which is not dependent on anything, which is the very essence of the word self. If this needs to be understood, where it needs to be understood? It needs to be understood in our intellect only. Therefore, this intellect, since it becomes an instrument where the knowledge is going to happen, as much as the knowledge is subtle, the buddhi instrument, the intellect, should also be subtle. So, develop a subtle intellect. Subtle intellect, எதுக்கு எல்லாருமே போறேன். The subtle intellect, how can it be developed? Subtle intellect develops through your religious life, a worshipful nature, chanting of Vedic mantras, doing puja, doing stotram. This develops a subtle intellect. Not a person who works in NASA or ISRO. They may have a very high level of intellect, but the subtlety of intellect is developed basically where the conviction to knowledge and conviction to moksha is there. Along with Ishvara, the subtlety of the intellect develops. It is Ishvara prasadam. You need to earn it. Acharya upasanam. This is another important thing where this tradition, this Ishvara, this tradition of Guru Sishya, where does it start? It starts with Ishvara. Therefore, one should take his Guru as Sakshat Ishvara. To him, this knowledge will flow. Acharya puja, Ishvara puja, they should be meaning the same for the person. In another Upanishad, in another place, it says that how much ever bhakti you show to Ishvara, the same amount of bhakti you are supposed to, the one who shows to his Guru, to him freedom is spontaneous and automatic. That is, he will be endowed with this knowledge very quickly. Very good. With that, Tritiya Mundaka Pratama Kanda section is over. We will move on to Tritiya Mundaka Dvitiya Kanda, the last of the Mundakopanishad, the last section of the Mundakopanishad, sixth. Again here, in this section, it gives lot of preparatory virtues and sadhanas, and after taking all the pain for knowledge and after taking the pain of gaining this knowledge, what is the result that one is going to get? Therefore, this section is preparatory sadhanas and the benefits. Okay, sadhanani and jnana phalani. The first and most important Vishyam. The first and most important Vishyam is Atma Varanam. Varanam means make the choice. What choice? That this life that is given to me, this life is given to me is for the purpose of knowing Atma. This is called Atma Varanam. Unless you have a strong conviction or strong resolute that I have to gain this knowledge, I have to gain the knowledge of the self, this knowledge is not going to make any relevance. Therefore, Atma Varanam Sarva Pratamam. The second one is Bhalam. Nayamatma Balahinena Labhyaha Nacha Pramadat Tapasa Vapyalingat Etair Upayair Yetate Yastu Vidvans Tasyaisha Atma Vishate Brahmadama. This one mantra talks about the sadhanas that one need to gain to attain Brahman. Okay. Balam. So second one, first one is Atma Varanam, second one is Balam. What is the Balam? Balam in the context of spiritual studies and sadhanas means that extraordinary perseverance capability when there are obstacles. You could have an intellectual obstacle, no matter how many classes you attend. This Sateva Chit, Chiteva Sat, you may not understand, but still you should have the perseverance. It will happen. There is no other way, it will happen. So, that ability to persevere intellectual obstacles, emotional obstacles, and other physical obstacles, but still stay put on Atma Varanam, and the sadhanams is Bhalam. That is the real Bhalam that is spoken about here. Then what? Third one, Apramattaha. Apramattaha. Apramattaha, don't have a casual approach. Nanu, in Tamil they say, Engathukarum Kacheri Ponar. Ava Pakatatla Ava edo Vedanta class pora, Nanum pore. Let me also try. Okay, it can start that way, but it should not continue that way. Therefore, very, very important. Don't take anything for granted. Don't take your life for granted. Don't take the very culture and traditions for granted. Don't take the scriptures for granted. Don't take the opportunity to study for granted. Don't take Guru for granted. Don't take anything for granted. If you have got this, you have got this because of a great tapas and great blessings for you. So just don't let it go. Don't take it for granted. How does this happen? This apramattaha, not being casual or not having a complacent approach. How does it happen? Be in satsangam. Wherever you have an opportunity, be in satsangam. What is the fourth one? Sannyasa. Don't be afraid. It is not about ashrama sannyasa. Physically, when one takes sannyasa, it is called sannyasa. Internally, when one takes sannyasa, it is called vairagya. Simple. Okay. Sannyasa in this context, what does it mean? It means not being emotionally dependent on anything on anyone for anything. Some exception that the Shastras allow during the time of study is, it allows you to emotionally depend on Ishvara, emotionally depend on Guru, emotionally depend on Shastra. That dependence is allowed. These three dependences are allowed so that dependence on spouse is removed, dependence on the son in the US is removed, dependence on relatives is removed, dependence on name and fame is removed, dependence on my VRS settlement is removed, dependence on the interest rate declared by the government, that is removed. So, use Ishvara dependence to get rid of all these things. Then this Ishvara will take you to Guru. Then you start depending on Guru. For what? For gaining knowledge. Slowly, you will not depend on Ishvara, you will depend on Guru. But when you depend on Guru, the good thing that is going to happen is, he will make you dependent on Shastras. When you are dependent on Shastras and operate Shastras as a knowledge giving pramana, the instrument of knowledge, what does Shastra do? It will make you self-dependent or independent. Self-dependent alias independent. Okay? When one person is self-dependent or independent, he will be a person on whom many people can depend. Therefore, in the previous section, yam yam loke manasa sambhavati samvibhati vishuddha sattvaha kamayate yanscha kamana tam lokam jayate tanscha kamans tasmat atmagyam harchayet bhuti kamaha. Whoever is atmagyaha, whoever whom you think, whom you see or whom you feel is endowed with this knowledge, he is worth a worship. Worship for what? Both for your spiritual upliftment and also for your material upliftment also. Okay. Then this mantra talks, this section also talks about Shirovratam. What is Shirovratam? What is Shirovratam? Shirovratam is a Kriyavantaha Shrotriya Brahmanishtaha Swayam Jukvate Ekarshir Shraddhayantaha Teshamevaitam Brahmavidyam Vadeta Shirovratam Vidivat Yaistu Chirnam. Shirovratam is a ritual, is a karma kanda ritual where a vessel, a clay vessel with a lot of burning fire is kept on the head and taken. It is basically to indicate one taking sannyasa and trying to heat up his head so that no more hair grows, because every single hair is one human misconception. That's why the head is tonsured, indicating that, oh Guru, I am taking sannyasa and I am coming in your sharan, so that I hereafter do not cultivate any misconception on my own. May they never get cultivated again. That is the indication, but it is a ritual. By Upanishad talking about that ritual at the end of the Upanishad, it says that do not ignore karma kanda. Now that you have gained Brahmajnanam, don't say that after Grahanam I will not take bath. I will not do tarpana. I am Ekam Advitiyam Brahma. To whom do I dirpanam? I never had father. If I never had father, how could he have died? Therefore, why should I do tarpanam? Don't keep talking all that, because Veda, because there are 10 people looking at you. So don't have full respect. Ishvara continues even after you gain knowledge. Okay, so Shirovratam is important. What is the palam? The palam is spelt in, it's an important palam, 3, 2. Sayohavai tat paramam brahma veda brahmaiva bhavati. The word brahma veda brahmaiva bhavati. Nasyat brahmavid kule bhavati. Tarati shokam tarati papmanam guha grantibhyo vimukto amrto bhavati. Vimuktaha bhavati amrtaha bhavati. Guha granti vimuchaha bhavati. Papmanam tarati shokam tarati. Kim karanat brahmavid brahmaiva bhavati. By knowing Brahman. So, the place where the context in which this Upanishad started. What is that? Knowing which everything is known. The word for everything is Brahman. By knowing Brahman, what does the knower become? By knowing Brahman, he knows that he is Brahman. So, figuratively it is said that by knowing Brahman, one becomes Brahman. So, when one becomes Brahman, or one knows himself to be Brahma Swarupam, what is the palam? The palam is that there are two parts. One is, as long as in prarabdha this body is available, this mind body is available for transaction, what is the palam? Jivan Mukti is the palam. That palan is called Jivan Mukti. What is meaning by Jivan Mukti? What is the meaning of Jivan Mukti? Tarati Shokam. He will be free from any types of sorrow. No sorrow can actually touch him. Psychological, nothing, tension, stress, irritation, anxiety, regret, no, any form of sorrow does not touch him. Kama Nivarti. Guha Grantibhyo Nivarti. Kama Nivarti. All binding adharmic desires will vanish. All binding adharmic desires will vanish means what? There can be desires, but they will be dharmic and they will be non-binding in nature. In other words, he will he will surpass the notion of success and failure. Pujya Swami Dayananda Saraswati says the real success is transcending the notion of success and failure in whatever you do or whatever you want. Sarva papaha or sarva kamaha, punya, papa, everything gets burnt. In other words, there will be no punarjanma. Okay. What happens after Maranam? After Maranam, this body and mind, Sukshma Shariram and Stula Shariram, they will go mix with the Panchabhuta. What happens to the Jivatma? Jivatma does not exist because Jivatma has understood that he is Paramatma. Therefore, he will not go and find another body to come again. So, Parantakale. So, Parantakale, after the last death, that becomes his last death, is merged. Therefore, this whole story is about the story of a wave and a story of the ocean. The wave was taught that you came from the ocean and you go back to the ocean. Then the wave became very curious to understand how long this will continue, how long I will keep coming and going. Then the wave was told that actually, even though you come from the ocean and go back to the ocean, your real nature is not coming and going, your real nature is water. Okay, I am water, fine, but what about the ocean? Then Brahma Lakshanam, ocean's Lakshanam, is also what is the essence of ocean? Water. By the wave understanding that its essence, the Chit, is water. Brahman's essence is Sat, which is also water. Sateva Chit Chiteva Sat. The wave shredded its waveness to understand that it is not a wave, also it is not ocean, it is the ever existent water. Okay, much in the same way, there is a beautiful mantra here. One last mantra. Yata nadyaha sandhyamana samudre tam gachanti namarupe vihaya tata vidwan namarupad vimuktaha parat param purusham upaiti divyam. What happens to that learned person who has gained this knowledge? His namarupa as a person, individual, etc., like how Ganga does not continue to be Ganga, Kaveri does not continue to be Kaveri once it has joined the ocean. Much similarly, this individual person also ceases to be Jnani. Why? Even Jnani is Namarupa. He is the Brahma, that is the very substratum, the reality of this entire universe. With this, Mundakopanishad finishes off in style with Palam. Let us chant the Shanti mantra and finish this session. Om Badram Karne Vishrunuyama Devaha Badram Pashe Makshabiryajatraha Sthirairangai Stuštuvahum Sastanubhihi Veshema Devahitam Yadhayuhu Swasti na Indro Vriddashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastaksho arishtanemihi Swasti no brihaspatir dadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Purnamada Purnamidham Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. 15 minutes. Okay. Was it useful? இங்கிலீஷ் என்ன கஷ்டமாக இருந்ததா, ஈஸியாக இருந்ததா? கொஞ்சம் எல்லாருக்குமே இங்கிலீஷில் பழக்கம் உண்டு பல வருஷமாக, இல்லையா? வெரி குட். மாமாவுடைய ஆதங்கத்தை பார். வெஹிக்கிள் நம்பர் 6313 யாருதுப்பா? 6313. என் வெஹிக்கிள் நம்பர் தெரிஞ்சு, நம்ம வெஹிக்கிள் நம்பர் தெரிஞ்சு. என்ன வண்டி இல்லையா? 2 வீலர். நம்ம 2 வீலர் இல்லையா? சரி. அவர் என்ன கார் நிறுத்துறதை பற்றி சொல்லியிருந்தார். சரி அம்மா, இது நிறுத்தச்சே இதெல்லாம் பார்த்து நிறுத்த வேண்டாமா? 2-3 விஷயம். இன்னொருத்தர் கேட்டு முன்னாடி நிறுத்தக்கூடாது. அப்புறம்